So now we're at my number one. So my number one film of 2022 is also my number one film of the 2020s so far, and I think probably
Wow.
my top 15 movies of this century. To be honest with you,
What?
it's RRR, and
Goodness.
yeah, I actually am as so this is the first Indian film I've brought to the podcast. You've brought two already, and I want to maybe start with your thoughts on this film, and then we can. I think my overall position pretty clear on how much I love this film, but I'd be curious to hear your thoughts, and then kind of get into a dialogue about it.
Boy, that's a tough act to follow. So I watched this movie or came to it like very, very reluctantly because from whatever I'd seen, the images and the over the top kind of action sequences and what have you, it's just not my thing. And
Hmm.
also growing up, I've been aware, growing up in India, I mean, I'm aware of sort of South Indian cinema, which has always kind of played, this kind of bombastic nature of, action or really any genre, you name it,
Hmm.
but at that kind of frequency. And I've never really been into that, my whole life. So
Hmm.
all of that was sort of like, oh, I don't know. To be honest with you, if you had not put this on the list, I probably would have found a way to not watch this movie.
Oh
But
wow, okay.
that said, I'm
Yeah.
obviously extremely proud of its success. It's
Hmm.
so amazing to see a movie from India be recognized like this. I've seen the videos, some posted by you, of various fan screenings,
Yeah.
and now an Oscar winner. Like
Yes, Oscar
amazing.
winner.
I'm
Yeah.
I'm so proud of all of that, but just not just not my genre. But having watched it, I'm obviously very impressed by it. There's no question. Like what Rajamouli has been able to accomplish
Hmm.
with the storytelling and the effects and the pacing and everything is absolutely incredible. But again, it's too extra for me. It's just yeah.
This film did break through, obviously, like internationally, all around the world. Do you have any sense of why this particular South Indian film
Yeah.
did? Do you have any thoughts on that? I'm just curious, honestly.
Yeah, no. I've been thinking about that too. And I don't know if I have a perfect answer, but I think part of it may be just time and place, right? Like
Mm,
we're coming back from these 2 weird years and wanting something over the top and larger than life. And it's very evident in the other movies that, you brought up and what have been nominated, that this sort of really fits into that rollicking, leave your home,
hmm.
never seen before experience, kind of the way they would market CinemaScope or what have you in the
Right, right.
60s,
Hmm.
when TV came out. Like I feel like it's in that vein of something that you've never seen before. So there's some of that.
Hmm.
Number two, I think Bollywood dancing or Indian movies, they've slowly been building momentum. I feel like more and more people know about it. I think it was just a matter of time
Mm.
that a true kind of over the top, no apologies movie from India is going to break in. And I think it had to be like an action oriented movie. Because I
Hmm.
think in the past, a lot of Bollywood exports have been romance movies or romantic comedies, or we call them masala movies that have like
Mm.
a little bit of everything.
Mm.
This is that too, but I think it's first and foremost an action movie. So I think there's some of that it's in its favor too, because it makes it a lot more accessible.
Mm.
But then
Right,
you
right.
also get the song and the dance and all of that as well. And it's very well made.
Hmm.
That's the other thing. Like to me, some of those effects are probably very cheesy, and I'm sure some people see that, but
Yeah,
you still can't deny about the fact that it's put together at a level that we really have not seen an Indian movie been put together before.
I
So
see.
I think it's a lot of that. And I guess thematically, we are in this time of sort of, you look at the movies nominated, some of the other ones, Triangle of Sadness or even Everything Everywhere, kind of, eat the rich or
Hmm.
downplay the people who've done bad, what have you, colonialism, like all of these themes that have been playing in the culture in obvious ways or non-obvious ways. They are all heightened to like a 2 million on the decibel point scale. And so, yeah, I think it's just a mix of all of
Hmm.
those factors.
No, I definitely can see all that. And I think I'll just add one thing just because that's how I came to it, as I think the digital like distribution, streaming, and the fact that
Oh,
this movie
yeah.
was on Netflix, I do think is a big
Yeah.
part of it. So I,
100%.
this movie premiered in March of last year, in the United States even, and I had not heard of it at the time. Then it went to Netflix, I think, over the summer, and then I started seeing some online chatter about it. Knew that it's something existed. Netflix would recommend it to me, but I didn't, choose to spend. Honestly, the runtime kind of scared me away from it a little bit. It's like 3 hours. Like, I don't know. I hear it's kind of good, but one of my good friends saw it and was like, "You have to see this." And then I kind of sat down and watched it right at the end of the year, like around Christmas. I was like, okay, I'll give this a shot. And I was immediately like, this is my favorite movie. I was just pulled in for all I think the reasons that kind of you mentioned. It is a little bit of everything. They got some fun romance in there. They also kind of a lot of the themes that I really gravitate towards, especially the anti-colonialism message, similar to like Avatar, right? It has a lot of that in this, which I think is important stories to tell in this day and age, especially as we look back on those things. And yeah, the action is also amazing. And I think it's like just a combination of all these different elements. Just to me, it just like spoke to me. And I actually spent, I've seen this movie once a month since I saw it. And I've went back and watched
How many
all.
times have you seen it?
Well, so this is four times then. This is because it's April, I think,
Goodness.
right? And I spent the last month or so going back and watching every single one of Rajamouli's films. So now I've seen
Oh,
all
wow.
12 of his movies, because this just again took me by so much surprise of like, this movie is like the most amazing thing I've ever seen. Like, I got to know everything about who this filmmaker is. And so that took me about several weeks of finding all those movies and kind of going back, and it's just amazing to see his style kind of evolve. And I definitely see what you mean, even just as a very a newbie and a layman to Indian films, just comparing this, which is now I've seen 12 or whatever of his movies as South Indian filmmaking, versus the films that had sort of broken through to America before this, were much more like Bollywood and like Northern India, and the movies
Right.
that you showed or had on the podcast that I watched. So just interesting just to see the amazing difference between the two. I mean, they're very different types of films, which is kind of I mean, I know it's obvious to you, but I'm just saying as like someone who's not as
No.
versed in that those types of that film industry, to kind of know the diversity there. So I can't speak more highly of this movie. I think it's just gonna keep becoming one of a favorite of mine. Really, I think what resonated for me the more and more times I would see it, just the friendship between these two guys,
Mm.
and I think that is something that makes the movie powerful to me. Just these guys that just have this bond, and they have this love for one another, and they're fighting the same cause. But they do have this loyalty and trust, and really like genuine love for one another. I think
Hmm.
that yes, it is very heightened, like everything in this movie, but I think that's to me what makes this something I like going back to again and again. It's the two leads and the chemistry they have together, and the story between them.
Mm.
So
Maybe that's another reason I think why it works. And I see that part for sure, the friendship and camaraderie, which, and we've talked about this because we've done a friendship episode. And
yes,
I
yeah,
think we both, at least I, struggled with finding American movies that centered truly on male friendships, because
right, right,
that
yeah,
kind of display of emotion, I mean, I don't want to generalize and say it doesn't exist. Of course it exists, but it's not put on display
mm-hmm.
even in real life,
Right,
amongst
right,
two guy friends, versus in Indian society, that's actually very common. Like you'll see, and you probably saw this when you were visiting India, you'll see guy friends just walking around holding hands.
yeah, yeah,
And they may or may not be in a relationship,
mm-hmm.
but it's totally kind of part of kind of the fabric of the culture. So
Mm-hmm.
I think there's to see that is kind of amazing and beautiful. So I'm glad that resonated.
Yeah, I think that again, the more and more times I see it, yes, it is the
Yeah.
action and the anti-colonial message and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, I think that's what keeps me coming back to it, is those two guys. And I think you're right. That's something that isn't found in Western cinema very often, if at all. And these two actors who had not seen him in any movies before, they're now going back and watching all of Rajamouli's films. They do appear several times in his filmography.
Mhm.
And I just think they have the charm and the charisma too to carry through. in this film. But I just like, again, like one of my favorite movies of all time now. I cannot stop watching this film. It's incredible. So if folks haven't seen it, don't be discouraged by the running time. It's actually a movie that the 3+ hours flies by. It's actually something that I was out with a friend kind of pitching how great this movie was. And we went back to his apartment after like going out for dinner. It was like 11 o'clock at night and we just watched it. And I stayed there till like 3 a.m. And I'm like, you have to watch this. It's like, okay, great. We'll put it on. Because once you start it, at least for me, like you can't stop it. And all you want is more and more of it. And yeah, I stayed over there late into the night as like cheering on this film. So.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll have to watch it with you, and maybe I'll have a different perspective.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Movie.
Let's. Believe me, you're not going to be able to. It's not going to be hard to pull my leg to watch this movie again. Like I'll put it on right after that we record.
Doesn't sound like it. Yeah. I will say the song is very catchy. It was really fun to watch it last night on the show, and all these videos of people dancing in the aisles and such. Like that's pretty amazing. When do you get to see that? So
yeah. Actually, that's a good shout out too. If folks ever see this movie playing in theaters in wherever they live, I highly recommend going. I've seen it twice in theaters now here in LA. And yeah, people are just really, I mean, you think like the end of Avengers Endgame, people go crazy. It's like that scene for the entire movie. It's just the amount of moments in this movie that Rajamouli builds like major sort of like emotional moments that want to make you jump out of your seat and cheer. It's pretty wild. I love it. Hey there, it's Alex. If you like the review and discussion Karan and I just had, make sure you subscribe to our channel, Movies That Shaped Us, to get full episodes. Every other Wednesday, Karan and I cover a topic around important people, places, events, and moments in our lives, and then explore it through 3 of our favorite movies. Subscribe right now, or follow our podcast on Spotify or Apple Podcasts via the link in the description below. Hope you join us for the journey.